Welcome back to another episode of Deep CONfessionals, where hosts Simone Herlihy and Tyler Bailey will take you on a journey into the minds of history's most elaborate cons, exploring the fascinating intersection between deception and faith. Join us as we unravel the motives behind some of the world's most notorious scams and con men.
Hi guys, on today's enticing episode of Deep CONfessionals, we will be investigating 3 stories about the Formosus conflict, John XII's escapades, and the blood smuggling of Pope John Paul. I'm Simone.
And I am Tyler.
And let's get right into it.
So we're going to start off with Formosus. In 897, the Vatican's Pope Stephen VI had disagreements with his deceased predecessor, Pope Formosus. This beef is complicated and in-depth, so we aren't going to get into the semantics of it. Basically, they just had a lot of feuding back and forth, and it's just too much drama. The most important takeaway is what Stephen VI did in retaliation to our boy Formosus. Stephen VI had the body of Formosus exhumed after being buried for over 8 months. Stephen then dressed Formosus's body in his papal attire, sat him down on a throne, and put him to trial as a dead person, having a deacon speak for him. Basically, he just had a guy stand behind the dead dude and just move his arms like a puppet. It was really goofy.
That's insane.
All of the court found dead Formosus guilty. Because of the guilty verdict, Stephen ordered to have his body dumped in the river. The resolution of this pope-on-pope conflict was harsh when Formosus's body was reported seen performing miracles in the river it was dumped in. This led to Stephen VI being overthrown, imprisoned, and then executed. He was executed by just being strangled by He got Epsteined in his jail cell, pretty much.
Oh, God.
Formosus's corpse was then retrieved from the river and is still on display at St. Peter's Basilica.
So really, Formosus took the W in the end, because he was already dead, and now his body was somewhere before, and now it's at St. Peter's Basilica.
Yeah, he got a upgrade in his final resting place. Dude caught a huge W and he kind of didn't know he did it.
Exactly. So the next person that we're going to look into is another really young pope named John XII. He took the papacy at age 18, which is really, really, really young. And because of that, he was really immature. He made the Vatican an unholy place by all biblical terms and practically made it into a frat house, a party house. Some of the things that he had there were like gambling, hookers, he set fires, and he toasted to the devil himself.
Hell yeah.
Some other things that he did were he was sexually active and he had a preference for widows. That makes no sense to me. I guess he liked the idea that the husband was gone. However, he also had another not so good sexual interest, which was his own niece. He did things that the church was super against, such as ordaining a 10-year-old as a bishop just because they gave him money to do so, being bribed. He had a deacon ordained in horse stables, which was highly looked down upon, and everything was supposed to be done within the locations of the church or the Vatican, and he said, no, I think I like it here. This seems funny, so I'm going to do it here. He's also a fan of hunting. Most popes are not, and it's kind of looked down upon, so that was another little taboo thing that he was a part of. Another thing that he did is one of his subdeacons got on his nerves, and so, of course, instead of just talking to him about his wrongdoings, he just said, I actually will cut your penis off and also kill you. So he was an extremist in every sense of the word. The Synod of Rome occurred after this in response to all of these acts and egregious things that were taking place in the Vatican by this 18-year-old. And the council had talks of getting him overthrown. Because of all of these things and the Synod of Rome, and addition to his conflict with Otto I, he was ousted from his pope position in 963. John then returned to the throne like a year later because basically nobody was physically stopping him. Otto had left and he decided, well, I guess you told me I can't go there, but no one's actually going to stop me. So he then put himself back into the pope position, where he then ironically died because he committed adultery and someone's husband wanted revenge. So he's quite the little party boy of the Pope Kingdom.
I think he deserved better. He's kind of a man of rationality.
Yeah. He was only 18.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, he couldn't have been 18 during that whole thing. I mean, look at him. At some point, you gotta grow out of it, kid.
Yeah, definitely. I thought this one was really funny, though, because I'd never heard of, anything like that going on. Obviously, the church doesn't want you to probably know about that sort of thing, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, the deep state trying to suppress my John the 12th lore.
Let me know. Let me know.
Yeah. So, we're gonna go on to the next one. Another Pope John Paul II. Everybody loves John Paul II.
My fave.
But most notably, his blood napping. Not him blood napping, but someone blood napping from him.
Oh, no.
John Paul II was the longest served pope in history, lasting 26 years, and was canonized as a result of the miracles he performed. On May 13th, 1981, John Paul II was shot twice at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican. Whilst bleeding severely on the ground, opportunistic ne'er-do-wells came along and collected as much of the holy blood as possible. So while he's sitting there just bleeding out, people just ran up just like, oh, fuck yes, my opportunity, and just gobbled up as much as they could. They just couldn't get enough of it. So
I can't even imagine that, first of all. Oh, he's shot the beloved priest.
Oh, no.
And then just collecting vials of blood in response.
Yeah, our elected religious leader, he's been maimed.
It's crazy.
Well, who left all this shit laying around? We can't let it go to waste. So, next, we get into the stories of the blood napping, essentially. So, in 2012, thieves stole a backpack from a priest on a train. The backpack contained John Paul II's blood in a vial.
Did this happen when they took the backpack? Were they aware of what was in it? Or did they just happen to steal a backpack and his blood was in there?
They happened to steal a backpack with his blood in it. They didn't know. They just saw that it was a priest, and they were just like, oh, I'm sure he's got valuables in it. And then they stole it. And then once they arrived in Marina di Servitelli, oh, what a name, the thieves saw the vial of blood, and threw it in the grass, believing it to be worthless. Essentially, they unknowingly threw away a third-class relic. Now, what is a third-class relic? Basically, you have 3 classes of relic that relate to religious figures, such as especially if they're canonized, which is what John Paul II was. They add a significant amount of value to it, so it's goes from a first-class relic would just be something that they wrote down, like something that they wrote, and that would be one. A second-class relic would, they get more personal. So if you get to a second-class relic, that's probably a piece of clothing that they had, that they wore every day. And a third-class relic could just be so personal, it could literally be their fucking blood. So that's what we were dealing with, and if you were to go sell canonized blood out on out on the black market, you could rake in quite a hefty penny for it for people who would want to get it.
Do you know how much it is? Like, kind of, or ballpark?
I don't know. I'm not a black market Pope blood dealer. I'm not really somebody who's been buying it. I know, right? I
wish.
I've kind of left off. You know?
Probably,
Yeah.
like, though, I would imagine, like, so much money.
Yeah, I'm more in the business of taking Dalai Lama hair.
Whoop,
So,
whoop.
yeah. So, next, well, this isn't the first time that JP2's blood was stolen and thrown away. In 2014, a church in Abruzzo, Italy, had a piece of cloth containing JP2's blood stolen. The thief then promptly threw it away in a dumpster, believing it to be worthless again. So, once again, someone steals this guy's blood, or something that at least contained his blood, looked at it and just thought, I have no use for this, and then just tossed it away. And the way that this one was found is that the police found out about it, and they had up to, I believe, 50 dogs around the area sniffing around, searching for it, till they found it in a dumpster. So, pretty goofy. And then finally, for a third time, in 2020, very recently, a vial of old boy John Paul's blood was stolen out of a cathedral in the Umbria region by a 49-year-old man. It was caught on CCTV, and you could go online to watch the video of him doing it. Police eventually apprehended and caught the suspect. However, this time, the vial was nowhere to be found, where at this, in this occasion, he sold it. That's what the belief, but he'll never get to talk about it, or he never opened his mouth and confessed. So they just sent him to prison, and we have no idea where he put the blood.
John must have some good blood or something, because, like, this is a pattern now at this point. He must just have that valuable blood.
I want you to, like, also think about it. How much fucking blood did he leak out that day, and how many people just got a hold of it? If
my God.
There's 3 cases. It's insane.
It's probably like, oh my God. And also, this is another question. How it must have been preserved pretty well. I mean, obviously, if it was held in like religious places, but my first thought was like, wouldn't blood just dry out if it's just with random people? But I guess that doesn't really matter.
On the cloth, it would have obviously dried out, but in the vials, I could see it being dried in the vials, but
I guess that doesn't matter because it's still his blood, even if it's dried DNA.
Yeah, it's like 40 years old at that point.
Yeah.
But anyway, what of these 3, which one would you say were your favorite?
I got to give it up to Formosus. That is my favorite story that we have heard, just because the pettiness, like, I think in the grave robbing of it all, I have just never heard. It's like giving Weekend at Bernie's, if you've seen that movie, just dressing up the corpse and just like having a good time with it. And it's just so ridiculous, but it's entertaining.
That's what I was thinking whenever the guy went behind him on the throne and started flopping his arms around.
Yep, exactly, me too.
Oh, yes, I did do that. Yes, I confess I'm a bad man. That is so goofy.
It's like he's playing a dolls with like a real life person.
Yeah. If I had to say which one was my favorite, probably the blood napping, because it's just like the happenstance of that is just so unbelievably unlikely, and yet it's happened 3 times. I'm sure there's probably a 4th out there that I just didn't find, but it's happened so many times that it's just like,
it's in God's hands at this point.
Yeah, that's a miracle in of itself.
Yeah.
Honestly, JP2 deserved the canonization. That man's a saint.
Let's get it going.
Performing miracles after death. That is crazy.
Yeah, they're all really entertaining, and especially because it's, I mean, I don't know, it's ironic to see all of these stories and a lot of the topics that we covered in the podcast, because they're objectively kind of funny. Like, yeah, they might be bad people, but some of these situations are kind of funny to listen to, and it just makes it so much better that it's all a part of the church.
Yeah, that's my biggest takeaway. I think this episode so far had probably the most humorous topics.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. I guess, I mean, the last one about the Hobby Lobby, the Hobby Lobby artifact stealing, I mean, that one was pretty goofy, but it was also had the elements of, a lot of people died to get a lot of those, artifacts and shit. But
wherein as this one, Formosus was already dead, so.
Yeah, Formosus already died, and John Paul died way after. Imagine if he was dead on the spot and people were collecting blood.
That would, I wouldn't put it past people. They would probably, we would have had way more vials of blood if that would have happened. They would have been shamelessly selling that up to today. We would have been just seeing them for like $5 here and there. So common.
Yeah, they would have cut him open down the middle and were like, all right, I'm gonna grab his kidney, you grab a pancreas.
Anybody want a heart? Anybody want a heart?
I'll take his heart.
Well, I think that's all for this episode. Do you have anything else to add, Tyler?
No.
Okay, well, that is all for today's episode of Deep CONfessionals. I'm Simone.
And I am Tyler.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Deep CONfessionals. Remember to stay vigilant, stay curious, and join us next time as we uncover more secrets from the con men of the world. Until then, keep your eyes open and your skepticism sharp. See you next week.